She has a master's degree in business administration. You are just an engineer. Sarah Jenkins did not even look up when she said it. Her eyes stayed on the printed document. Pen hovering over a checklist like my entire career was just another box to tick before lunch. My name is Joel Miller. I am 48 years old. I have been keeping DataStream Industries running for 15 years, and I was about to find out exactly what they thought I was worth. We were sitting in conference room B, the one with no windows that smelled like burnt coffee. Gray walls, motivational poster about teamwork, box of tissues on the side table. Sarah had called me in at 9:30 a.m. with a calendar invite that just said Compensation Review Confidential. Nothing good ever came from meetings with that word in the title. Sarah slid the paper across the table. Her nails were perfect, the kind you notice when someone will not look at you. "This is your adjusted compensation for the new fiscal year," she said in that flat HR voice. "You will see your merit increase here." I looked down. Senior infrastructure engineer, 15 years. Annual merit increase 2.8%. Below that in smaller print, compensation aligned with internal equity guidelines. Corporate speak, for we have decided what you are worth and arguing will not change it. 2.8%, I said. Correct. That is within the standard band for technical contributors. I set the paper down. The server room was 2 floors below us. I could feel the building's rhythm, steady hum, all systems normal. For now. What about Jessica Rossi? Sarah's pen stopped moving. She forced a smile. I am not sure what you mean, Jessica Rossi. The new operations director started 5 months ago, no technical background. I saw her offer letter. The smile got tight. I cannot discuss another employee's compensation. She is making double my salary, is she not? Sarah put her pen down carefully. Jessica has different qualifications. Like what? She has a master's in business from a top program. She brings strategic oversight. Sarah sat up straighter like the degree itself proved her point. I waited. The building's air system cycled. You are just an engineer. Different roles need different market positioning. Just an engineer. The words hung there. Just an engineer, I repeated slowly. The just an engineer who built the failover system that kept us online when AWS went down last year. The just an engineer who caught the payment vulnerability before it cost us millions. Sarah's jaw got tight. Joel, I understand you are frustrated. I am not frustrated. I am clarifying. You are telling me someone with an MBA and 0 experience is worth twice what I am. I want to make sure I heard that right. She folded her hands, professional, cold, unmoved. We benchmark against market data. Leadership roles command higher salaries. Education matters. Credentials matter, more than keeping the systems running, apparently. Know your place, she said. Know your place. There it was, not dressed up anymore. I looked at her, at the checklist, at the paper with my name, and a number that said what 15 years of my life was worth to DataStream. I reached into my bag. Sarah tensed like I might pull out a lawyer's card. Instead, I took out a folded piece of paper and put it on top of her document, clean white paper, already signed. My resignation letter, effective immediately. Her face went pale as she read it. Joel, she started, I sent a copy to your inbox at 9:47 a.m. You will see it when you check, along with copies to my manager and Julian Vance. She blinked at the signature, at the date, at words that could not be taken back. You do not have to do this right now. This is a big step. Talk to your manager. Sleep on it. We can revisit the numbers. I've been sleeping on it for 15 years. This is me waking up. I stood up. You told me to know my place, so I do, and it is not here. I picked up my bag and walked out, leaving the resignation letter on the table. By 9:50 a.m., my badge was flagged. By 9:55 a.m., my system access was cut across 12 production environments. By 10:03 a.m., I had cleared my desk and walked past 3 engineers who suddenly found their screens interesting. By 10:12 a.m., I was in my car filling out paperwork for the new job I had already accepted at SecureNet Technologies. At 10:27 a.m., exactly 46 minutes after I had signed that letter, my phone started buzzing with calls from numbers I did not recognize. But let me back up and tell you how one sentence in an HR meeting turned into the most expensive 46 minutes in DataStream history. I joined DataStream 15 years ago, when they were mid-size payment processing, trying to compete with the big players. The infrastructure was held together with duct tape and prayers. We had one data center in Virginia. a backup site in Oregon that had never been tested, and monitoring that could tell you something broke, but not what. My interview was with Henry Hughes, the CTO who had built his way up through the ranks. "Can you keep this place from falling apart?" he asked, pointing at a whiteboard covered in diagrams that looked like a disaster. "Depends. Can I change things?" "If you can prove they need changing, then yes." He hired me on the spot. I spent the first 5 years rebuilding everything. Real monitoring that showed trends, not just status lights. Proper backup systems we actually tested. Documentation that did not say restart and pray. By year 7, I was the guy people called at 2 a.m. when things broke. Not because I was on call, because I was the only one who had seen these problems before and knew how to fix them. I became the institutional memory nobody wanted to admit they depended on. That was fine for a while. The company grew. Revenue went up. Executives got bonuses. I got a 3% raise and a coffee mug that said keeping the lights on. I did not complain. I believed that eventually competence would be recognized. That was my first mistake. The shift started when DataStream decided they needed to professionalize. That was the word the new CEO used, Julian Vance, former investment banker brought in by the board to scale the business. Julian loved words like synergy and optimization. He did not love words like technical debt, or that is going to break if we do not fix it first. Within 6 months, hiring changed. Less emphasis on people who knew how things worked. More emphasis on people who knew how things should look on slides. We got directors with MBAs who had never written code. VPs who could talk about operational excellence, but could not explain what a load balancer did. Consultants billing $400 an hour to tell us we should cloudify our infrastructure strategy. That is how we got Jessica Rossi. MBA from a top 10 business school, 3 years at a consulting firm, zero technical background. Her title, Director of Strategic Operations. Her job, align cross-functional initiatives with business objectives. Translation, sit in meetings, sound confident, make sure decisions look good in quarterly reviews. Jessica was good at that part. She knew how to talk, how to frame things, how to make moving a database sound like a transformational digital initiative. What she did not know, meaning and did not care to learn, was how anything actually worked. That became a problem fast. Jessica started inserting herself into technical decisions not because she understood them, but because she decided operations meant she should have visibility into everything. She would show up to architecture reviews with questions like, "Can we just containerize this?" Or "Why do we not migrate everything to the cloud?" Questions that sound smart to people who do not know better and make engineers want to put their heads through walls. At first, I tried being diplomatic. That is an interesting idea. But here is why it will not work in our environment. She would smile, nod, then rephrase the same idea in the next meeting like I had not said anything. Eventually, I stopped explaining. I started documenting her suggestions in meeting notes along with the reasons they would fail. That way, when they did fail, there was a record. I did not do it to be vindictive. I did it to protect the engineers who would have to clean up the mess. Jessica did not like being documented. She started routing around me. She would go directly to junior engineers and ask them to just try something quick. She promised them visibility, career growth, face time with executives. Some of them, desperate to get noticed, would say yes. That is how we ended up with a production deployment on a Friday afternoon that took down our primary API for 40 minutes. Because someone had implemented a quick optimization, Jessica suggested without understanding what it actually did. I fixed it. I wrote the post-mortem. I added another entry to my notebook. New failure mode, decisions made by people who do not understand consequences. Nobody read the post-mortem except the engineers. Jessica got promoted 6 months later. I found out about the pay disparity by accident. One of the junior engineers, Carlos Rivera, had been sloppy with file permissions. He had uploaded Jessica's offer letter to a shared folder instead of his personal drive. I was not snooping. I was looking for a document Carlos had promised about a database migration. I clicked the wrong file, and there it was. Director of Strategic Operations, Jessica Rossi, base salary $178,000, signing bonus $20,000, annual bonus target 25%. I stared at it. Then I opened my last pay stub. Base salary $89,500, no signing bonus, annual bonus target 8%, which I had gotten exactly twice in 15 years. 5 months at the company. Zero technical background, zero systems saved from disaster, making exactly double what I made. I did not get angry, I got clear. That evening, I updated my resume for the first time in 15 years. I reached out to recruiters I had ignored for years. Within 2 weeks, I had offers from companies that actually valued infrastructure expertise. Within 3 weeks, I had accepted one principal engineer at SecureNet Technologies, $165, Susan base plus equity, reporting to a CTO who had built her career on actual technical work. All I needed was the right moment to leave. Sarah Jenkins gave it to me. The compensation review meeting was exactly what I had expected, another insulting raise in the expectation that I would be grateful. When she slid that paper across the table and I saw 2.8% merit increase, I was not surprised, just tired of being undervalued, tired of watching people with better credentials and worse judgment get paid more for doing less. So when she said she has a master's in business, you are just an engineer, know your place, that was it. Not because it was the worst thing anyone had said to me, but because it was the truth they had been dancing around for 15 years finally said out loud. I pulled out my resignation letter and put it on the table. I had written it the night before, printed it, signed it, just in case. Good luck replacing me, I said. Then I walked out. DataStream was about to learn an expensive lesson about the difference between credentials and competence. The first thing that happened after I left was nothing. For exactly 21 minutes, everything ran normally. The payment processing systems hummed along, transactions flowed, money moved from account to account like it had for years. At 10:33 a.m., that changed. The payment processing service started throwing errors. Not total failure, just elevated error rates that triggered the first-level alerts. Carlos Rivera saw them and checked the runbook. The runbook said, if payment processor shows elevated errors, check queue depth and service health. He did. Everything looked normal. Here is what Carlos did not know, what nobody knew except me. If the payment processor starts showing slow timeouts to the settlement service and queue depth looks normal, you need to check the connection pool settings on the back-end database. It does not auto-scale, and when the pool exhausts, it fails silently. I discovered that vulnerability 3 years ago during a similar incident. I had fixed it, documented it in my personal notes, and added a monitoring alert that would catch it early. An alert that was firing right now, but nobody was reading the description. They were just seeing elevated errors and assuming it was something else. Carlos escalated to the senior engineer on duty. That was supposed to be me, but I was sitting in my car filling out tax forms for my new employer. The backup senior engineer was sick, so it fell to Maria Lopez, a mid-level engineer who knew the systems but had never seen this particular failure mode. Maria did what she had seen me do dozens of times. She opened 5 terminal windows, started tailing logs, looked for patterns. She saw something weird. The payment processor was getting requests. It was trying to connect to the settlement service, but connections were timing out. Not immediately, just slowly. Slow enough that retry logic was kicking in, generating more requests, making the problem worse. Maria recognized the pattern, but she did not know why it was happening. The part she was missing sat in my notebook, written 18 months earlier. If payment processor shows slow timeouts to settlement and queue depth normal, check connection pool on settlement DB2 pool exhausts silently. Nobody else knew that. I had fixed it quietly, documented it in my notes, and moved on. The monitoring alert I had added was firing, but the description just said, settlement connection pool warning. Without context, it looked like a minor issue. By 10:45, the error rate had tripled. By 10:50, payment processing was completely down. 800 businesses could not process transactions. The largest client, a payment processor that did $12 million in annual business with DataStream, sent an email with the subject line, service interruption, immediate escalation required. That is when Jessica Rossi walked into the operations center. Why is the dashboard red? She asked. We are investigating, Maria said. Investigating does not generate revenue. Can you not just restart it? Maria hesitated. We need to figure out what is wrong first. How long will that take? I do not know. Jessica pulled out her phone. I am calling Julian. CEO Julian Vance showed up 10 minutes later. He looked at the dashboard, at the error graphs climbing, at engineers who were clearly struggling. Where is Joel? He asked. He resigned this morning, Jessica said. Over a compensation issue? Julian's face went white. You let him walk today? I did not let him do anything, Jessica said defensively. He made a choice you forced. Julian snapped. Then he left to come to my apartment, which is when I closed the door in his face. While Julian was driving to my house, the situation got worse. By 11, clients were calling every few minutes. The stock price started dropping. By 11:30, 3 major clients had sent formal breach notices. Maria and Carlos were doing their best, but they were swimming in deep water. They restarted the settlement service, which cleared the connection pool temporarily. Payment processing came back online for about 20 minutes. Then it crashed again, harder this time, because the restart had flushed a bunch of queued transactions all at once, and the downstream systems could not handle the spike. Now they had 2 problems instead of 1. We need to call Joel, Carlos said. He is not going to answer, Maria replied. Would you? We need to try something. Jessica overheard this. Absolutely not. We do not negotiate with employees who quit without notice. We will figure this out ourselves. With what? Maria asked. Joel built this system. He is the only one who knows how all the pieces fit together. Then we will bring in consultants, Jessica said. By 12:30, they had contacted 3 different consulting firms. The first 2 said they did not have anyone available on short notice for a crisis of this magnitude. The third quoted $15,000 per day plus expenses, minimum 5-day engagement, and said their earliest available consultant could be on site tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? Julian said when Jessica told him. We will be out of business by tomorrow. Meanwhile, I was having lunch at a nice restaurant near my new office, going over onboarding schedules with Dr. Evelyn Cole, SecureNet CTO. When can you start? She asked. I was thinking Monday, but I could start tomorrow if you need me. Monday is fine. Take the weekend to decompress from whatever happened at your last place. If only she knew. My phone buzzed with another call from DataStream. I sent it to voicemail. Then another, then a text from Carlos. Joel, please. We are drowning here. I showed the text to Evelyn, my old company having some technical difficulties. She raised an eyebrow. Related to your departure? Possibly. How bad? Their entire payment processing is down, has been for 2 hours. Evelyn whistled. That is expensive. Very. Are you planning to help them? I thought about it. No. They made it clear this morning they do not value what I do. Now they get to learn what it is worth. Back at DataStream, the crisis was escalating. By 1 p.m., the company had lost $8 million in transaction fees. By 2 p.m., regulatory authorities were asking questions. By 3 p.m., local news had picked up the story. Julian called an emergency board meeting. The board members were not happy. How does one engineer quitting take down our entire operation? The board chair asked. He was not just any engineer, Julian said. He was the senior infrastructure engineer. 15 years with the company, built most of our core systems, and we just let him walk. Julian looked uncomfortable. There was a compensation dispute. How much of a dispute? He was making $89,500. He found out our new operations director was making $178,000. Silence. The operations director with an MBA and 5 months of experience? Yes. And instead of addressing the inequity, we told him to know his place. Julian winced. Something like that. The board chair rubbed her forehead. Do we have any way to reach him? He is not answering calls. What about his home address? I tried. He closed the door in my face. Literally. More silence. Then the board chair sighed. How much is this outage costing us? Last estimate was $12 million in climbing, plus regulatory fines, plus reputation damage. All because we would not pay a senior engineer what he was worth. That is accurate. The board chair stood up. Fix this, whatever it takes, and fire whoever made the decision to lowball him in the first place. Back in the operations center, things were getting desperate. The external consultant had finally arrived, a guy named Simon who charged $2,000 a day and spent the first 2 hours asking questions about systems he had never seen before. So this settlement service connects to what database? Simon asked, squinting at a diagram Carlos had drawn. The main transaction DB and the reconciliation DB, Carlos said. And the connection pooling is configured how? We do not know. Joel set it up. Simon looked around the room. Where is Joel? He quit this morning, Maria said. Today? He quit today and you are having this crisis. Yeah. Simon shook his head. You need to get him back here. I cannot reverse engineer 15 years of infrastructure knowledge in an afternoon. He will not come, Jessica said. We already tried. Have you tried offering him what he is actually worth? Jessica did not answer that. By 4 p.m., the outage had been running for 5.5 hours. The consultant had managed to identify the connection pool issue, but could not figure out the safe way to fix it without causing more problems. Every solution he suggested, Carlos or Maria would point out why it might make things worse. We need the original architect, Simon finally said. This is too complex to fix blind. That is when Julian made a decision that probably saved the company. He drove to SecureNet Technologies and waited in the parking lot for me to come out. I saw him sitting in his BMW when I walked to my car at 5:30. He got out and approached me carefully, like he was approaching a dangerous animal. Joel, Julian, I know you do not want to see me. I know we screwed up, but I need 2 hours of your time. Name your price. It is not about money. Then what is it about? I looked at him, really looked. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair was messed up. His face looked like he had aged 5 years in one day. It is about respect, I said, which your company made clear this morning it does not have for me. We were wrong. Yes, you were. If I fix the compensation issue, if I make this right, will you help us? I thought about it. About my daughter Lily's tuition bills. About the engineers who were probably still in that conference room, trying to solve problems they did not create. I will think about it, I said. That night, DataStream's board held an emergency session. They fired Sarah Jenkins. They put Jessica Rossi on administrative leave pending review. They authorized Julian to offer me whatever it took to come back. The outage finally ended at 11:47 p.m., 13 hours and 14 minutes after it started. Not because anyone figured it out, but because one of the junior engineers, Carlos Rivera, finally found an old Confluence page I had written 2 years ago, titled Payment Processor Failure Modes Emergency Recovery. It had everything. The connection pool issue, the retry storm problem, the exact steps to recover without causing secondary failures. Carlos followed the instructions step by step. It worked. Systems came back online, clients stopped screaming, the crisis was over. Final damage, $28 million in lost revenue, $4.2 million in regulatory fines, 3 major clients terminated their contracts, and a stock price that dropped 12%. The next morning, Julian called me. The system is back up, he said. I heard we found your documentation. Thank you for leaving it. I always document things. That is what good engineers do. I know we want you back. At what salary? $165,000 base, $40,000 signing bonus. 20% annual bonus target, principal engineer title, report directly to me. I was quiet for a moment. It was almost exactly what SecureNet had offered me. I appreciate the offer, I said finally, but I already started somewhere else. We will match whatever they are paying. We will beat it. It is not about the money, Julian. It is about working somewhere that values what I do before they are forced to. I understand, but if you ever change your mind, I will keep that in mind. 3 months later, DataStream reached out again. This time through a recruiter, they wanted to bring me back as a consultant. Not full-time, just quarterly reviews and knowledge transfer. The rate $450 per hour. I said yes, not because they deserved my help, but because I had learned something important. The best response to being undervalued is not anger, it is success. And sometimes, if you are lucky, you get to charge the people who undervalued you 4 times your old hourly rate to fix the problems they created. Today, I am still at SecureNet Technologies' distinguished engineer. Lily's tuition is covered without me losing sleep. My team respects what I do because the leadership does. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled things at DataStream. If I should have been more diplomatic, given them a chance to fix things before walking out. I tell them this: when someone shows you exactly how much they value you, believe them. You can stay and hope things change, or you can leave and let reality teach them what you were actually worth. I chose reality, and 46 minutes later, so did they. Here is what I want you to understand about workplace respect. It is not something you can negotiate for after the fact. Either they value what you bring, or they do not. And if they do not, No amount of explaining will change their mind. Only consequences will. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop preventing those consequences and let them learn the hard way. Because the person who tells you to know your place is the same person who is about to find out what your place was really worth to begin with. But the real kicker wasn't just the system failure. It was the legal fallout that Jessica Rossi had unwittingly triggered. While she was busy playing corporate strategist, she had authorized a software patch that completely bypassed our licensing agreement with a major vendor. That vendor held a patent on the exact failover pooling mechanism we were using. Under 17 U.S.C. Section 106, unauthorized use of a patented system is a direct infringement, carrying massive financial penalties. I had warned her about this in an email 3 months prior. I told her that implementing her quick fix without renewing the proper licenses was a clear violation of federal patent law. She ignored me, telling me to focus on my code and leave the legal strategy to leadership. Now, with the system crashed and logs exposed to auditors, the vendor's legal team swooped in. They filed a cease and desist order within hours of the crash, citing 17 U.S.C. Section 106. DataStream wasn't just losing money from the outage, they were staring down a multi-million-dollar patent infringement lawsuit. And it didn't stop there. Julian Vance and the board were suddenly facing a breach of fiduciary duty. By ignoring repeated warnings from their senior technical staff and allowing an unqualified director to make critical infrastructure decisions, they had failed in their legal obligation to act in the best interests of the company and its shareholders. Shareholders don't take kindly to losing $28 million because the CEO wanted to save a few bucks on an engineer's salary while overpaying an MBA with no experience. The board was furious. The threat of a derivative lawsuit hung over Julian's head like a guillotine. He knew that if this went to court, his career as a CEO was over. The breach of fiduciary duty was so blatant that even the most junior corporate lawyer could have successfully argued it. This wasn't just an IT failure. It was a systemic collapse of corporate governance, driven by arrogance and a fundamental misunderstanding of what actually makes a tech company run. To make matters worse, Jessica had tried to cover her tracks. When the crash happened, she went into the compliance system and attempted to backdate an approval form, claiming I had signed off on her disastrous optimization. She didn't realize that every action in the compliance system is immutably logged with a timestamp and cryptographic hash. Under California Penal Code Section 470, this constitutes forgery. She had falsified a digital document to defraud the company and shift the blame onto me. When Carlos found the audit log and showed it to the forensic investigators, Jessica's administrative leave turned into a potential criminal investigation. She had gone from a highly paid executive to a liability that the company had to cut loose immediately. Her employment contract was rendered void ab initio due to the fraudulent nature of her actions during the crisis. She didn't just lose her job, she lost her career. I spent 15 years building that infrastructure. Every server, every network switch, every load balancer was something I had personally configured. I knew the system better than I knew my own house. I knew which databases ran hot on Friday afternoons and which network paths got congested during end-of-month reconciliation. This knowledge was hard-won, paid for in sleepless nights and missed family dinners. When Sarah Jenkins told me I was just an engineer, she wasn't just insulting me. She was insulting the thousands of hours I had dedicated to keeping DataStream afloat. It was a profound lack of respect that went beyond a mere salary dispute. It was an ideological failure. They genuinely believed that managing the people who do the work is more valuable than actually doing the work. They believed that a degree in business administration magically endowed someone with the wisdom to oversee complex technical architectures they couldn't even begin to understand. This is the rot at the heart of modern corporate culture. It's an environment where the talkers are rewarded and the doers are marginalized. But the reality is, you can't talk a database into restoring itself. You can't synergize a failed hard drive back to life. When the systems go down, the MBAs and the VPs and the directors of strategic operations are useless. They just sit in conference rooms pointing fingers and asking how long until it's fixed. And then, when it is fixed, they take the credit for managing the crisis. Not this time. This time they had to face the consequences of their own incompetence. And those consequences were measured in millions of dollars and shattered careers. I spent 15 years building that infrastructure. Every server, every network switch, every load balancer was something I had personally configured. I knew the system better than I knew my own house. I knew which databases ran hot on Friday afternoons and which network paths got congested during end-of-month reconciliation. This knowledge was hard-won, paid for in sleepless nights and missed family dinners. When Sarah Jenkins told me I was just an engineer, she wasn't just insulting me. She was insulting the thousands of hours I had dedicated to keeping DataStream afloat. It was a profound lack of respect that went beyond a mere salary dispute. It was an ideological failure. They genuinely believe that managing the people who do the work is more valuable than actually doing the work. They believed that a degree in business administration magically endowed someone with the wisdom to oversee complex technical architectures they couldn't even begin to understand. This is the rot at the heart of modern corporate culture. It's an environment where the talkers are rewarded and the doers are marginalized. But the reality is, you can't talk a database into restoring itself. You can't synergize a failed hard drive back to life. When the systems go down, the MBAs and the VPs and the directors of strategic operations are useless. They just sit in conference rooms pointing fingers and asking how long until it's fixed. And then, when it is fixed, they take the credit for managing the crisis. Not this time. This time, they had to face the consequences of their own incompetence, and those consequences were measured in millions of dollars and shattered careers.